You probably think Ford's greatest engine was the 427, or maybe the mighty 428 Cobra jet. Wrong. What Ford didn't want you to know is that their real performance legend was the 390 FE, an engine so powerful, so effective, they had to bury it for decades. While the public was dazzled by flashy marketing campaigns, the 390 quietly made history. From city streets to NASCAR ovals, from Mustangs to Galaxies, it was everywhere, yet never allowed to become a legend. Why? Because it was too good, too reliable, too cheap to produce. And if the truth got out, it would have destroyed Ford's entire performance strategy. In today's video, we're ripping off the corporate mask to expose an engine that was intentionally underrated, racing victories Ford never advertised, and a marketing conspiracy that lasted for decades. In 1958, Ford was facing a crisis. Competitors like Chevrolet and Chrysler were ramping up horsepower, while Ford's aging Y block was running out of steam. They needed a new platform, one that could evolve with America's growing hunger for performance. That's when the FE engine series was born. FE stood for Ford Edsel. Yes, the same Edsel that became one of the most infamous failures in automotive history. Originally, the FE was developed to save the doomed Edsel project, a multi-million-dollar gamble that went up in smoke. But when Edsel collapsed, Ford realized something extraordinary. They had accidentally created a high-performance iron block that could change the game. The 390 arrived in 1961 like a precision strike, with an over-square design featuring a 4.05-inch bore and a 3.785-inch stroke, displacing exactly 390.04 cubic inches. This wasn't an experiment. This was the foundation for a decade of dominance. And yet, instead of celebrating it, Ford chose to bury it. From the moment it launched in 1961, the 390 FE was anything but basic in the traditional sense. With an over-square design, a larger bore than stroke, this engine wasn't just rev-happy, it was inherently built for growth. With a 4.05-inch bore and 3.785-inch stroke, it displaced exactly 390.04 cubic inches, a number so precise it speaks volumes. But what truly shocked engine builders was the 1962 version. Ford quietly released a tri-power variant with 3 two-barrel carburetors, pushing a peak output of 401 horsepower. That's right, 401 horsepower in 1962. While Chevrolet was still wrestling with mechanical fuel injection and Chrysler was only starting to dream about hemispherical combustion chambers, Ford had already unleashed a monster. So why wasn't it celebrated? Because it was too good, outshining the more expensive 406 and 427 engines Ford wanted to push. And so, the decision was made. The 390 would be rebranded as an entry-level engine, at least on paper. Throughout the 1960s, Ford executed a carefully crafted marketing strategy. They deliberately downplayed the 390 FE to preserve the elite image of engines like the 427 and 428 Cobra jet. The 390 was labeled standard, entry-level, even common, but in reality, it was the backbone of Ford's entire performance ecosystem. While consumers were encouraged to spend extra on flashier names, millions of Mustangs, Fairlanes, Galaxies, Thunderbirds, Cougars, Cyclones, and more were quietly hitting the streets with a 390 FE under the hood. The most subtle part of Ford's scheme was publishing modest horsepower ratings for the 390, ensuring it wouldn't cannibalize sales of more expensive but often less capable alternatives. This created a bizarre paradox. The most formidable engine in the FE lineup was disguised as the cheapest, all to protect the profit margins of Ford's weaker offerings. With every 390 sold, Ford delivered top-tier performance while successfully diverting the customer's attention. On paper, the 390 FE looked like just another mid-tier engine. But when you dive into the technical specs and special variants, a shocking truth emerges. Ford intentionally downplayed its true power. The two-barrel version was officially rated at 265 horsepower at 4,100 RPM. The four-barrel version jumped to 320 horsepower, but look closely. Certain 1967 to 1968 Mustangs and Fairlane GTs received special 335 horsepower versions, and that's still not the top. Back in 1961, a high-performance variant with 10.5 to 1 compression, header-style exhausts, solid lifters, and an aluminum intake cranked out a massive 375 horsepower. Numbers that rivaled many of that era's so-called supercars. But the story isn't just about horsepower. The architecture of the 390 FE was a masterstroke of engineering. 4.63-inch bore centers, a 10.17-inch deck height, perfect for displacement growth. At around 650 pounds, it was even lighter than many competing big-block Chevys. In short, Ford had created an engine capable of matching the legendary 427, but never told their customers. On paper, Ford had created a platform capable of matching any high-performance engine they ever built. And it wasn't just on paper. Real-world racing proved the 390 FE was Ford's secret weapon. In the world of racing, where everything is hyped to sell tickets, sell cars, and sell image, the 390 FE chose to show up quietly, but its impact was undeniable. From 1963 to 1965, Ford dominated NASCAR with 101 wins in just 3 years. The press crowned the 427th as the icon, but the truth is, many of those victories came from 390-powered cars, machines labeled as ordinary but running like monsters. In drag racing, the proof was even more obvious. While magazines and sponsors focused on tunnel-port 427s, hundreds of grassroots racers across America were quietly running deep into eliminations with 390-equipped Fairlanes and Mustangs. The lighter weight and more compact dimensions made the 390 a perfect fit for intermediate drag cars. While Ford boasted about their 1-2-3 finish at Le Mans in 1966 with the GT40, they never told you that many endurance race wins at home came from FE-powered vehicles, including plenty based on the 390. Ford intentionally kept the 390 out of the spotlight, because if customers found out, they'd ask the obvious question: why pay more for an engine that isn't necessarily better? From a corporate standpoint, Ford found itself in a dilemma. They had accidentally created an engine that was nearly perfect, but couldn't allow it to overshadow the premium engines they'd invested so heavily in marketing. The solution? They reprogrammed the way customers thought about the 390. First came the positioning. The 390 was labeled as standard, entry-level, and common, even though it performed on par with the 427 and 428. Then came the numbers. Ford deliberately underrated its horsepower, creating the illusion that only the more expensive engines were truly desirable. But here's the twist. Internal Ford documents reveal that the 428 Cobra Jet was actually cheaper to produce than the 390, thanks to fewer casting defects and simpler construction. That proves this wasn't about engineering, it was about profit. Ford wasn't just selling engines. They were selling image, prestige, and emotion. Meanwhile, the 390 continued to carry sales, win races, and prove its reliability in millions of real-world cars. But Ford never released exact production numbers for the 390, because doing so would have blown the entire marketing narrative apart. But after decades of being seen as a second-tier option, the 390 FE is entering a full-blown renaissance. As collectors gradually realize that spec sheets don't reflect real-world value, the price of the 390 is climbing fast. Today, a complete 390 engine can be bought for anywhere from $300 to $1,000 depending on condition. A bargain compared to the $10,000 or more commanded by the 427. Professionally machined 390 blocks range from $600 to $800, while fully rebuilt units with documentation can reach $1,000, and they're still going up. But the real appeal isn't just the price. What's truly driving the boom is the aftermarket. Companies like Edelbrock, Scat, and CompCams are producing a full suite of high-performance parts made specifically for the 390, from aluminum heads to stroker crankshafts. Today, you can build a brand new 390 from scratch without a single original part. The market has changed. But what's even more exciting is this: the 390's true value isn't just in its past. Because today, when built properly, the 390 FE has proven that it's not just a nostalgic icon, it's a true performance platform. With modern stroker kits, a 390 can be expanded to 446 cubic inches and easily exceed 500 horsepower, more than the original 427s that Ford once heavily promoted. And those numbers aren't just on paper. A 1969 Mach 1, powered by a 390, one drag week, 1,000 miles of driving, and 5 drag strips in 5 days. A powerful testament to real-world durability and performance. Many professional builders now call this the golden age of FE engines, where parts are readily available and support from the enthusiast community is stronger than ever. Hundreds of build guides, dyno sheets, and tuning solutions are out there, all within reach. An engine once dismissed as a grocery getter has now become the beating heart of true street machines, sleepers, and full-blown dragsters. The 390 FE didn't just make its mark on racing or modern builds, it helped shape how American automakers approached high-performance engine design for decades. One of its most important technical legacies is the use of cross-bolted main caps, a design that stabilized the crankshaft under high RPM and heavy loads. This feature later became standard in many of Ford's strongest engines and even influenced industry-wide practices. Beyond that, the 390's upgrade potential, easy displacement growth, and overall durability made it a reliable choice for both street and track applications. In an era when power often came with compromise, the 390 FE proved that performance could also mean dependability. And that's why, even after decades in the shadows, its legacy still lives on in today's modern V8s. For decades, Ford convinced the world that the 427 was the legend, that the 428 Cobra Jet was the ultimate icon. But the truth is different. It was the 390 FE, the engine they deliberately downplayed, that carried an entire era of performance on its back. It was never glorified, never given the spotlight, yet it was the silent force behind so many victories. Today, with the truth exposed, the car community is finally giving this forgotten machine the respect it always deserved, And if you've ever owned, driven, or built a car with a 390 FE under the hood, drop your story in the comments below. How much horsepower have you made? What's your best quarter-mile time? And most importantly, do you believe Ford buried this legend on purpose? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because in the next video, we're uncovering the real reason Ford killed the 427 SOHC. And trust me, it's not what you think.